How's it going, everybody? My name is Suris, and I want to have a conversation with you about how I think that the right and the left may be using the same words to describe things that they see in reality, but I don't think we all agree on what those words mean. So, if you are new to my channel, again, my name is Suris. I try to cover politics and things that matter to me, and I try to do so in as honest a way as I possibly can. I try to be fair and even-handed. I know that I often fail, but if that level of honesty about things that are going on in the world right now is something that you find important, if you find value in that, please consider subscribing to the channel, maybe letting a couple friends know what I'm doing over here, and that would be just incredibly awesome. I'm not even gonna lie. But I wanted to have a conversation about the fact that I don't think the left and right share values. And I know, shocking, right? The idea that people who are on different sides of the political spectrum don't have the same values. Water's also wet, right? Although you'll disagree with that too. But no, what I'm talking about is that we use the same language by and large, whether you're liberal, whether you're Democrat, whether you're conservative, whether you're Republican, whether you are further on the left, further on the right, we use very, very similar language. We all speak English at varying degrees of efficiency. I don't speak it very well, but I do it for a job, so that should tell you a lot about the depth of expertise. But I do want to say, let me ask you a question. If I asked you the question, is America exceptional? I was reading a Time article about this, and this was the one that was brought up there. So I'm going to bring it to you as well. Is America exceptional? Now, in the article that I was reading, this is something where all of Republicans, like any Republican polled, said yes. And this is Republican voters, not Republican pundits, and not Republican people who are in Congress. Now, of the people polled, only half of Democrats said that America is exceptional, but the nitty-gritty was that the two sides had a super different idea of what that word meant. I'll quote it from here so that I don't get anything misconstrued or have a little game of telephone issue where I send you thinking the wrong way about this. But to Republicans, exceptional meant that we, the nation, we are the best, the shining city on a hill, the beacon of hope, the greatest nation in the world, an example for other nations to follow. For Democrats, though, exceptional didn't mean that. It meant, well, that we are still great. It means that there are things that we love about America: freedom, the opportunity to be whatever you want to be, your individual rights. Those are the things that make America great. But the idea that America was greater was not really part of the conundrum. So when pushed specifically on American exceptionalism being, are we greater than anybody else, only half of Democrats said yes, but like 80-some-odd% of Republicans said that that was the case. And I think this kind of gets at the idea that Americans in general, and really this is the way for any nation, but right now, we have very differing ideas of what words mean, and we don't have a good habit of asking the opposition or our interlocutors what they think certain words mean when we get into a conversation. For instance, if I say that America is about freedom, I think that most Americans, brainwashing or otherwise, most Americans would agree with that. Most Americans are going to sit there and go, yeah, of course, America's about freedom. It's one of the big things that we're about. You know, that bald eagle there stands for freedom for all. But a Republican may look at that and think of it more as, well, freedom in the negative sense. Now, if you don't know what that means, a negative freedom or a negative liberty is something that happens when you are free from external interference. You are free from coercion. You are free from constraints. Conversely, positive freedom is the freedom to act upon your will. If you want to do something, you have the ability to go pursue self-mastery, realize your own potential, all this fun, flowery language about being a better version of yourself. a Republican, and if you are a Republican viewer of mine, please, correct me in the comments if you think I'm wrong on this, but I feel like most Republicans look at freedom as freedom to not be fucked with. And as a result, they celebrate that freedom to not be fucked with. But if you are somebody who's further on the left, you will go, well, yeah, I'm free to not be fucked with, but I also have chronic pain and can't do anything, so I'm not actually free. Or you might be trans and you might need medication in order to feel comfortable in your own skin. And in that case, you're not free. You have a constraint, an invisible constraint to the rest of us, but you still have it. Or you're in an underprivileged and underserved area and you can't get a good job, or you can't get a good education because the way we have housing taxes, your education's quality is almost entirely dependent on how much money can come out of the households in the immediate area via property taxes. So you may have the freedom to go out and do whatever you want, but you don't have the means to do it. You don't have the ability to do it. And as a result, when you ask, is America truly free? A lot of Republicans may say, well, of course we are. Of course we're free, because their idea of freedom is these negative freedoms. Now, hold that in a bin, because that doesn't really apply once we start talking about immigrants or really anybody else who ICE is currently going after, right? We'll talk about that in a second. But then when you get to the Democrats, they're going to go, or the people on the left, they're going to go, well, no, we're not really a free nation. We say we're free because the government takes its hands off of a lot of situations, but like in comparison to other nations that have just free healthcare, free meaning free at the point of necessity, because you've paid for it with your tax dollars, a place like that, you are more free in general to pursue your own self-interest, because you might not have to deal with as much chronic pain. You might be able to get things like dental work taken care of when you actually need it taken care of. You might be able to get things like gender-affirming procedures done when you feel like you need those. You may be able to get any number of things. You know what? If you're on the right, just think about a friend of yours who's a veteran who's been fighting with the VA, trying to get benefits that, let's be honest, should just be given to all American citizens in fucking general. Take all your frustrations with that veteran friend of yours not getting medical care from the VA that they deserve, and just extend that to all Americans, and suddenly we're on the same page. Another example that was given in the Time article, and granted, this is an old article, but I feel like it's still very relevant today, was the question, or the statement, rather, America is a place where if you work hard and play by the rules, you can get ahead. And that is a very vague statement. What do you mean by working hard? Is this work hard for you, or work hard in the eyes of your boss? Do you mean playing by the rules as in the rules of the federal government, the rules of your workplace, your own personal moral code? Which rules are we referring to? But that minutia aside, 78% of Republicans during that particular bit of conversation, or that particular survey, agreed with that statement and openly embraced that statement. An overwhelming majority, but once again, only about half of the Democrats agreed with that statement. Now, I want you to take that pin that I asked earlier in the video where we talked about immigrants and having to play by a different set of rules and not necessarily having the same freedoms as the rest of us right now with ICE doing their shit. I want you to take that and move that over to this point of the conversation real quick. So if America is a place, and this is for my Republican viewers, if America is a place where working hard and playing by the rules means you can get ahead, what does that mean to you? Because when I think get ahead, I'm thinking getting ahead of bills, getting ahead of health concerns, getting ahead, and that includes mental health concerns, by the way. I am thinking getting ahead in the sense that you are not having to struggle with a mountain of debt and a mountain of problems, and you still have the ability to work, but you're not killing yourself in doing so. That's my idea of getting ahead. I have not personally reached that yet. I have my bills, obviously, but the only thing I've really managed is not having as much debt. And that one I've only really managed because I have a fucking fantastic audience, and y'all have helped me through thick and thin. That said, I want to know, if you're a more right-leaning member of my audience, what does get ahead mean to you? And what does playing by the rules mean to you? Because right now, America is a place where you can play by the rules. You can go out and protest. And if you're willing to say that whistling, like using a whistle, is not a valid form of protest, then you've Bailey'd and moved the goalposts so far on what you consider valid protest that you'd rather the protest be something that simply never inconveniences you and never exists in your peripheral vision, and then it's a valid protest. Like, that's the moment where you would be happy. The moment where you can understand that a protest exists because the news told you, and you can make fun of the protesters, but you can't actually see them. I believe that that is where they should be. So when you have a person who is playing by the rules in every way, shape, and form, and that means with the Second Amendment as well, they are playing by the rules of the Second Amendment. You are allowed to have a weapon, and you are allowed to concealed carry the weapon if you have a concealed carry license. If you are playing by all the rules, and yet we still have right-wingers who are super happy that Alex Preddy got shot, is America really a place where if you work hard and play by the rules, you get ahead? Because that doesn't sound accurate to me anymore. And I guess that's where I would come into that 50% area where the Democrats were in that conversation, because I think that most of them may understand that the rules are not well defined, and even when you follow them as they are defined, like per the letter, you still end up getting shot by the police if you are a person of color. Like, the chances of that just increases. Or you get shot by ICE if they see you as enough of a protest agitator. A fascinating thing has been happening on my Facebook timeline, and it's fascinating but also frustrating. Like, remember that the rules matter a lot. You're allowed to go outside with a gun in the United States. Those rules matter so much when it's Kyle Rittenhouse. And I remember everybody getting up in arms on the right end, and even a few people on the left saying that, no, Kyle Rittenhouse deserved to defend himself. He did everything he was supposed to do. He followed all the rules. He did everything legally. Cool. That's entirely fine. And yet, the thing that I see on my Facebook feed that confuses the shit out of me, and this is just an example, there's more of this, but I don't make it a habit of keeping those up there. I'm seeing people posting about Alex Preddy's donations to Democratic campaigns and stuff like that, and trying to paint him as this person who did so many terrible things, because he played by all of the rules. You're allowed to vote for who you want to in a free country. You're allowed to support who you want to financially in a free country. But remember from earlier in the video, the idea of freedom may be fundamentally different between Republicans and Democrats. That idea of freedom may be so different that even if you are correct in every way, shape, and form about why he should not have been shot, why that shouldn't have happened, you are correct. He was doing his Second Amendment right. He's allowed to do that. You are correct. He was out in the open, which he's allowed to do. You're correct. He was out exercising his First Amendment right, which he's allowed to do. But remember, because the right wing of the United States has a different idea of what freedom means, for them, it means when Kyle Rittenhouse goes and does the same thing, he gets a book deal. When somebody else does it, and they are sensibly on the left, you justify them getting shot. On the one hand, you could look at this as a massive amount of hypocrisy, and it is. It is. But I think fundamentally, we may be working with such different definitions of the same words that it might not be hypocrisy so much as it is miscommunication. And I'm not saying that to downplay the absolutely evil tripe that has been spouted on social media by real people and bots alike in regards to all of this. I'm not saying this is just a miscommunication in the same way that one would be downplaying it. I'm saying it because I feel like the only thing that Democrats and Republicans, left, right, etc., the only language we truly speak identically to one another is anger and polarization. So I have a question to ask you, or at least a favor to ask you, and maybe you could do me a solid in doing this, or two, really. Favor number one is, could you please subscribe to the channel, where I talk about this shit that matters to me, and I try to be as honest about it as I humanly can be. If that's something you find value in, subscribe to the channel. I'd appreciate your support. Let a few friends know what I'm doing over here as well. But the secondary thing, the secondary favor, is maybe when you're engaging in these conversations, and you're not engaging with them online, because online, I promise you, people are just going to want to fight. They're just going to want to fight. But when you're engaging with these conversations, let's say at the local bar, or at your local meetup with your friends, or wherever you may be doing this, maybe take a step back and ask the other person, hey, what does freedom mean to you? What does that word mean to you? Because there's two scenarios that I foresee happening. And let me know in the comments section below which scenario you run into, or if there's another one that I've not considered. Scenario one is I think they're going to make up a definition on the spot because they haven't thought about it. If they're honest, they may just say they haven't thought about it, but I think most people think of the idea of freedom as so universally accepted that we don't put any consideration into that word. Ever. So my first thought is this person's not going to know what the fuck they mean when they say freedom, so they're just going to either be honest and tell you they haven't thought about it, or they're going to give you a definition that they're going to try to rattle off that may not actually be what they believe, or it may change depending on who's asking them. My other thought, though, the other scenario is that they have thought about this, and they may actually tell you that their version of freedom, especially if they're on the right, is that ability to not be fucked with. It is that your freedom to throw your punch ends at my nose, and they don't think about it any further than that. I believe those are the two scenarios that you will find. You will likely not find somebody who shares your definition of freedom, because if they did share your definition of freedom, truly and honestly, then they might be on the same page as you. Unless they simply believe that there is a class of human being that does not deserve the same freedoms as the rest of us. And that pulls us back once again to the first point in this video, that there are, right now, a class of people who have different freedoms than the rest of us. Because if you had freedom to not be harassed, then you and your 5-year-old son would not be arrested because they thought that you looked brown enough to be an immigrant. If you actually had a freedom to not be fucked with, then you wouldn't be shot for protesting. If you actually had a freedom to not be fucked with, you see where I'm going here. I do want to make one more statement before this video is over. We know a decent bit about Renee Good and Alex Preddy, and we know that the minute that either of these people died, the right wing did everything in their power to demonize them both. Renee Good became a mad liberal woman in a heathenistic lesbian relationship who was trying to gun down an officer with her car. That is who she became. And Alex Preddy is becoming a member of a left-wing insurgency insurgency operation, who spends all of their money trying to support the evil regime of the Democrats. Like, that's who Alex Preddy is becoming to the right-wing media. And if you don't believe me, just look at what they're doing talking about his SIG, his weapon. They're saying that somehow an ICE officer recognized that specifically his SIG had modifications done to it such that it had a high chance of going off randomly, and therefore they felt the need to execute him. That's fucking shit I've seen on Fox News. different sets of rules because they work on a different set of definitions, I think. And make no mistake, ICE is not only killing people who are out and protesting. They've killed 9 people so far this month. That means that they will be on record to kill over 100 people by the end of the year. 100 people who they have a track record of killing American citizens, not just the people that the right wing seems to think they should be killing. But that's even another thing. I'm just out of curiosity, another question for the right versus left part of my audience. What do you think the responsibilities of a law enforcement officer are? Are they to be judge, jury, and executioner? Or are they to bring people in so that the justice system can do what it's supposed to be able to do best? Let me know in the comment section below. But I want to wrap all this up to something from the very beginning of the video, which is that I don't think the right and the left share values. But when I say that, I'm not meaning that we don't both believe in freedom. I think we don't share values because we disagree on what freedom means. We both want healthcare for our loved ones, but we disagree on what that means. We both want a safe and secure society, but we disagree on what that means. And for some of you, I think it sounds a little bit like this.
For a safe and secure society.
I'm really starting to feel like everybody that hated the prequels just really didn't like the politics that actually are really salient to what's going on right now in society. I'm just... by the way, did you know that George Lucas pitched the idea to Disney of having the next sequel trilogy be one about the problems with trying to build an actual foundation for a new society after destroying the previous the previous one with the Empire and all of the troubles that go into that? By the way, have any of you read Conquest of Bread by BriarPatchPumpkin that talks about that exact same thing? I don't know. Maybe it's weird that that idea was shot down by Disney in favor of fighting the same looking galactic space Nazis, even though they had already won. It is just weird. It's very weird to me. It's very, very strange to me, knowing that that pitch was made and those movies had those undertones. And we're here right now. I feel like we could have used a better Star Wars trilogy. The second trilogy specifically, not the prequels. I like the prequels, actually. But no. I think, by and large, we have different values. But we use the same words. And I think maybe it's time that we start asking those around us that we value what they mean when they say their words. Because I feel like they mean different things than we do. That said, let me know in the comment section below how your conversations go. If you end up subscribing to the channel off of this video, let me know that too. I would greatly, greatly appreciate the support. That all said, I'm going to start getting ready to make some Magic the Gathering content over on the secondary channel, and then I'm going to get ready to stream where we're going to talk about the news more directly, and that's going to, of course, go onto the Suris live channel. So I will hopefully see you all in those next ones. Insert end of video tagline here, everybody. Hey, you made it to the end. I want to give an extra thanks to the patrons who allow me to do this full time. I want to thank Aaron Rail, Astral, Britzkrieg, Jemshin, Poundini, Red Joker, Victoria, Jonas, Craig, Tarika, Fireshard, Smiling GM, John, Dren Hadamada, Creeper, Sagitta, you know I'm not saying that last part, Valis of Sereth, Ottoman Angel, Rooster Rachel, and Fire Panda, who are all my $20 and up patrons.